As a brief overview here, we're going to introduce ourselves and the organization ITA. We will talk about the impact of COVID on the industry of teaching abroad, what some of our speculations are going forward. We're going to start talking about some regional content again, as well as teaching English online, which is so important to so many people right now. And ask the question, is this the right time to get certified? What is a realistic timeline to get a job online or to go overseas? What are your course options for certification? What does job search guidance look like? And at the very end, we'll have a little Q&A for everybody.
So International TEFL Academy, we are a full service TEFL certification school. Basically means that all of our students complete our TEFL certification course so that they're qualified for those English teaching positions, and we assist them with their job search. So that way you can actually use your TEFL and find that teaching work that you're looking for. With that being said, we have been a leader in the TEFL industry for the past decade. And actually in 2020, we're named the top TEFL organization and top online TEFL class by Go Abroad. Throughout this presentation, you'll hear a lot from me and Matt about what we do and going into detail, but check out these external review sites. So that way you can see our actual alumni, their experience and the reviews of our course.
That's right. And so ITA, we started here in 2010 with a little different purpose, which was we're not just going to run a training certification, but we're going to help people go around the world. So we've been doing this for 11 years now, and we've had graduates as young as 17, as old as 85. That's actually an honest number. In 2020, we trained over 6,000 people in the pandemic, and we have to date over 30,000 alumni. So people are scattered all around the world, and actually every picture that you see in this presentation is of an alumni of our program who we've helped work abroad.
Oh, this is our team. I mean, this is from 2019. Don't worry, this was not yesterday. So this was back in April 2019 at our first ever film festival that we run now every year. And this is a few of our faces. So you can probably spot me, Ahmed, Matt. I'm not sure if I see you in here, but I know you were there. But this is us as a team from a couple of years ago.
Yeah, it was a fun night. It was a tearjerker for a few people. A little uncomfortable when you're watching these wonderful alumni films and your boss is crying right next to you, but that's another story. Before we really dive into everything, we just want to get kind of a pulse here, though, and have you let us know what describes your situation in regards to getting TEFL certified. So Ahmed is going to launch a poll. What are your goals?
All right, as you can see on the screen, and hopefully you can't see it, your options are right there. So is your goal to teach English abroad when possible? Are you trying to teach online to gain experience ahead of going abroad, which has been really popular as of late? Are you planning to teach English online from the comfort of home, wherever that is, and just stay there? Do you want to live the digital nomad lifestyle, traveling and teaching English online? Or are you already TEFL certified, just looking for work? Give you guys a minute or so.
I know for me, when I got into this, it was just, I want to go abroad. That's it. I just want to go abroad. And by the time I went to teach, having already studied somewhere before, I just wanted to see as many places as possible. So it wasn't even about the final destination for me. I just knew that I wanted to live overseas again. And that was enough for me to look into getting trained and actually get certified. I got certified before I knew that I was going to go teach in Korea. I just knew that, hey, someday I'm going somewhere.
Looks like we got almost 100% of people in high 80s. We can go ahead and close this and share some results. All right, there are the results on your screen. You have my main goal is just to teach English abroad when possible, being the overwhelming choice.
Similar
Very
to Matt.
Yep,
Yeah.
love to hear that. All right, well, let's get into it.
All right, so why are we here today? We are here talking about the impact of COVID-19 in the TEFL industry so far. So obviously a lot has happened over the past 12 months, and the situation is continuing to be very fluid, and there's a lot of different variables that you're going to plan for when it comes to actually using your TEFL in teaching. So we are going to take a closer look at where we stand right now in terms of jobs for teaching abroad, teaching English online, and also, the first step with our TEFL classes. So we're going to cover a lot.
All right, so where are things standing right now? Certain regions of the world are functioning better than others. Specifically, East Asia, things are largely normal, whereas other parts of the world, things are still slow. Europe is having a lot of restrictions right now, even within Europe in terms of travel, and this is impacting work opportunities at language schools, for example. While in Asia and the Middle East, many schools are opening to varying degrees. People get hired in advance, are able to move over for their jobs. There's probably a quarantine period. Latin America can be, country by country a bit, but things are beginning to open. I know I saw last week in Thailand, for example, people who are vaccinated can now enter Thailand as tourists without quarantine. So we don't have a crystal ball on it, but we can always discuss these things, and it's best, honestly, to get into your specific destination with your advisor, and we'll give you some general ideas here tonight.
Exactly. And what else do we know? Teaching online is one industry that has really grown over the past year. It's always been around, but definitely with this increase in interest for remote learning as well as remote teaching, it's been a really lucrative market. So that's something that you could always consider as an opportunity with your TEFL certification. And we'll talk a bit more about teaching online later on. So this is just a little snippet for you. We also know that when it comes to educational services in general, it's still in high demand. English training is falling under that umbrella as well. Job opportunities are going to continue to grow. I know Matt had mentioned a few regions that have stayed steady, some that maybe are a little bit more behind, but things will go back to normal, and that's likely to be happening in the coming months or into early next year. And really, the best way to situate yourself right now is to be proactive and to prepare. So capitalizing on this time you have now so that once things inevitably do open up, you're ready to go.
Yeah, ultimately too, big picture, I feel like this global pandemic really pushes forward the fact that English is the bridge language of the world, and it almost will have a net positive effect in the long run for English education. So, how will job markets work in different regions as hiring recovers? It's going to take some time for everything to return to quote unquote normal. It's not just going to be flip the switch and everything's 100% in some of these regions that are more impacted with hiring. But we want to provide you with how job markets typically work in normal times around the world, so you have that as a reference, and what you can anticipate as things are recovering. Most of you probably aren't going to be heading abroad for another 3 to 6 months, and it's our hope that the situation will be very different and better within that time frame. So just bear in mind, it isn't impossible for us to predict the future, and anything can change at any time. but we're going to give you the best advice that we can here tonight.
Of course, I'm still waiting for my crystal ball so that I can give exact answers for everyone, but I think being very adaptable is really important right now because there's a lot out of your control, a lot out of ours, as well as all of these countries and schools around the globe. But what do we anticipate in these coming months? I mean, the next 3 months, I mean, online virtual teaching and virtual learning is a really good place to be like planning in terms of using your TEFL. And then, like I had sort of mentioned earlier, we anticipate hiring in the TEFL sector as well as international travel to ramp up throughout the rest of this year. And like Matt had said, normalcy hopefully will return in 2022, hopefully earlier. And once that does happen, there will be that sort of surge for in-person teachers. And also, I mean, keeping in mind exact requirements for like negative COVID tests, vaccines, quarantines when traveling. This is all changing pretty much week to week, I would argue. So keeping up to date on those sort of components as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's dive in though. Let's talk about Europe. Always a popular region that people look into. And here are some of the top options. And when we say top options, we're talking about accessibility to markets and also size of job markets. You know, where are the jobs and where are the jobs that we can get? So those top markets are Germany, Poland, Russia, the Czech Republic, Italy, Spain, and Hungary, but that's not the full list.
Of course, and as a reminder, Matt had mentioned this earlier, this is going to be pretty general in terms of the entire region. So get in touch with your advisor if you have specific questions about a country or want more clarification. When it comes to interviewing and applying for positions in Europe, the majority of opportunities is going to be face-to-face when it comes to Western Europe. In advance hiring, so a phone or a Skype interview would be more so common in some parts of Central and Eastern Europe, as well as some popular government programs that are in Spain and France. Visas, you want to know what documentation you're going to need as you're living and teaching abroad. Probably no surprise to you all, it's going to vary from country to country. In Spain, student visa options are available in Barcelona and Madrid through like our schools that are there, and really good options right now because you would be able to enter in on a student visa in Spain. Work permits as a US citizen, I mean, Germany, the Czech Republic, Russia, and some parts of Eastern Europe could be good options as well, if that's important for you.
I also think looking forward, we're going to see probably some changes in visa laws for Americans specifically entering Europe, because Brexit just went through. You know, the deadline for UK citizens to be able to live and work in Europe, continental Europe, without paperwork has expired. And it expired at the beginning of this year. And over the last year, you know, perhaps they would have come up with some sort of visa laws for more people to come and take these jobs and document them. But we were in COVID, right? So I think for Americans, we're going to see probably some changes. Like, for example, in Germany, there's a freelance workers permit. And in the Czech Republic, there's a business permit. We'll probably see some of these things start to take shape as well in other countries in Europe. Because if I know one thing, it's that governments do like tax money, and they're only getting better if people are on proper documentation. So this is a story that, you know, we'll keep our finger on the pulse, but the whole visa situation in Europe is bound to change, and this year and next for sure. Also, degree requirements. When we say there are degree requirements in Europe, we're usually making a suggestion, and that is a bachelor's or bachelor's of science. Is it an exact requirement for paperwork? Not necessarily, but you are typically dealing with adults and business professionals. And so it's common that employers would look to see that you've completed some sort of education. But in certain instances, like professional work experience can trump this. So it's not necessarily the full story there. It's a case-by-case situation and something to talk to your advisor about.
Of course. And I mean, when we're talking about all of these different components, you may be thinking, when? Like, when do these jobs open and what does that look like in Europe? So Europe typically does biannual hiring. So you're going to see a peak in hiring in September, October, so like early fall, as well as like in the new year, so in January. So these are really the times of year that we recommend you start like planning for your teaching jobs, just because there is an influx of opportunities. And when it comes to contract lengths and what to be planning for, most common is 10 to 12 months. And finance-wise, I mean, Europe is typically going to be a break-even market. So what that means is what you're earning as an English teacher is what you need to live comfortably and afford like your basic living expenses, maybe some light travel. And a lot of our alumni will teach English online or private tutor, so that way they can supplement their income a bit and have more of a cushion.
Yeah, and I think with some of this terminology like break even, when you see it on a chart, it looks so black and white. But in reality, what these are honest projections from us to you as a first-time teacher without experience in this field. And in Europe, and at many private language institutes in Europe, or in countries that say break even, you're actually paid for your FaceTime teaching. I used to be paid like this, but I'd already had experience as a teacher for a couple of years. So my capacity for how many lessons I could teach was way different than somebody who was doing this for the first time. And so our projections are meant to be conservative, and a break-even target is really us saying, we think you're teaching about 22 FaceTime hours a week. That's it, which is technically part-time, hence it being break-even. It's not minimum wage, but that's the reality of it. So there are ways to supplement it, but certainly wanted to clarify that part. Well, let's move on to Latin America. This is where Kari had most of her teaching experience. Our top 7 markets here are Costa Rica, Chile, Argentina, Mexico, Peru, Colombia, and of course, Ecuador. So like in Europe, it's very common that face-to-face interviews are the standard. Could these things change in the future? Sure. I think while we say a face-to-face interview is most common to secure a job, that doesn't mean you're going somewhere without a plan. You're arriving to a country and a city that you've chosen that you know has a market that is substantial enough that you are definitively going to be able to get work. And also, prior to going, you should be talking to these schools and letting them know of your intention to come, and maybe having some informal discussions. So while we say face-to-face in many situations here, it's because, sure, you can talk to schools. They'd like to meet you when you're there. When you're there, you start work, it's pretty much straight away, and you'll probably do visa processes on the ground versus in advance, like you might see in other parts of the world. So that is the standard interview procedure in Latin America. Talk to schools, canvass them, maybe try to chat, but you're going to finalize everything when you're in the country. It is possible to get work visas in Colombia, Chile, in Ecuador, and in Mexico. In other countries, it's very common that people just teach on tourist visas. You can renew them every 90 days in most countries in South America, and it's not uncommon that people just continue to work on tourist visas in these countries. It's the norm. And in fact, in some of these countries where you do work on a work visa, you probably start on a tourist visa while you're doing paperwork within the country. So it's going to vary from country to country. Always a fun discussion and one to be had directly with your advisor.
Very true. So when we're looking at Latin America, I mean, before the pandemic, Latin America had a really robust teaching market. As the pandemic subsides a bit more, we do expect that to return. When you're applying for positions, Latin America is a really great option if you do not have a degree, because pretty much the whole region has opportunities for you. So that's a really good option just because you do have that flexibility. Some schools may have preference for a bachelor's degree, but it's not usually a requirement for like government paperwork, like it might be in like Europe or Asia, which we'll talk about later. And Latin America is also a really great option if you are 40 plus, maybe planning for retirement. There's really good opportunities there for our teachers in that age group, at just having that more flexible market. And looking at the types of students that you're working with, there's a really big market for business professionals throughout Latin America. Not to say there's no young learners, because there are, so you can still find opportunities teaching young learners, but you will find more with the adult learners.
Exactly. And one little comparison from Europe to Latin America, where it's different. You know, on surface, this often looks the same. Adults, business professionals, young learners, visas. Really, some of the differences with markets is English proficiency. In Europe, you have so many different languages. People have to speak English, and maybe they, come by English education at a younger age. Whereas in Latin America, it's Spanish for the most part. So English proficiency is probably a little bit lower in many of these countries. And with that, I think the need's higher in a lot of ways. So it's a wonderful region to look at, stunning and beautiful in terms of the topography and some of the natural beauty in these countries. And I love it. I love the time that I've spent in Latin America. I know you do too, Kari.
We're biased, so warning right there.
Exactly. It's just a lot of fun. So some of the hiring seasons can be different than what we're used to here in the United States. They actually have a different school year. It's a different hemisphere in South America. So you're going to find January through April being common times to start, as many school years begin in February or March, or post-carnival if it's a big carnival celebrating country, as their summer break is actually in January, and that's a downtime. So you're going to find slightly different times of the year. There is some year-round hiring, because honestly, there are places where there are just positions that are always available, and they just need teachers. Contract length, this is a place where you can find shorter contracts. 12 months is always ideal for a school and for the students that you're teaching, to have that continuity of the teacher, but you can find places with 6-month contracts, or even some places where there are 3-month contracts. And when we get into salary and we say break even here, like in Europe, many of the positions are paid by the hour, but ultimately the other factor here is that your currency is always diminished relative to the US dollar exchange rate in Latin America. So you wouldn't want to work a lot of extra hours to go here to save necessarily. Your money is going to spend better locally than it would be sending back to the United States or Canada. However, if you are teaching a little bit online, you are making US dollars, and so they will stretch. And that's something that a lot of people factor in while working in Latin America. And it can make a real big difference in terms of how many things you can do, traveling, and maybe the apartment that you can afford, and all of these things.
All right, now for the largest TEFL marketplace in the world, Asia. So Asia is a lucrative market in terms of salaries and benefits, and we'll touch a bit on that in these coming slides. And it's also a region that, throughout COVID has continued to recruit for English teachers and can be a good market at least right now. We'll see how it comes in the next couple months. But here are some of those top countries in Asia. South Korea. A lot of our alumni are heading to South Korea right now. I saw some fact from our job search team that we had 6 alumni starting at one like Hagwon in South Korea. That's crazy. So a really big market there for our alumni. China, Taiwan, Thailand, Japan, Vietnam, Cambodia. These are probably going to be the most common, but obviously other countries outside of that. And fun little fact here, there are more students learning English in China than the entire population of the United States. So let that sink in for a second.
All right, I'm going to take a second and let it sink in.
Yep.
It actually is almost unfathomable. You know, like what's the size of the universe or the Milky Way? You're like, okay, you can put a number on it, but it doesn't make any sense. All right, so here's something that's a little different. When we say degree requirements and a bachelor's degree or a 4-year degree is required, we mean it. And we mean it in the sense that to legally be on a visa, it's a requirement. It doesn't matter what the degree is in or what field you studied. This is just part of the paperwork process to be on a visa. And many of the schools in that part of the world will be hiring you on a proper visa, which will come with, you know, health benefits and health insurance and some other things. So are there exceptions to this? Yes. Cambodia has always been a place that you can get a visa, a business visa, without a degree, and they will hire you. In China, honestly, some of these provinces probably will as well. So that's kind of the take on degree requirements. There are some exceptions as well. You can work with an associate's degree in Taiwan, and there's a lot of options. I mean, there's some exceptions to the rule given that it's 2/3 of the world market. So you're going to find some additional benefits commonly in Korea and China where they may pay for your flights, pay for your accommodation. Throughout the region, you're probably dealing with younger learners. So school-aged kids, secondary ed. Sure, there are some positions with adults and business professionals, but the bulk of the work that you will see will be with kids or high schoolers, really. Great place to go, though, if you're looking for some of those extra benefits in terms of finances and whatnot, and a wonderful region to live in.
Of course, of course. So when it comes to interviewing for these positions, I know Matt and I have already talked a bit about, I mean, in advance, face-to-face. Generally speaking, you can find both in Asia. It's just a matter of knowing what's going to be most common in your country of interest. And that's something that your admissions advisor can always help you with, sort of clarifying and setting expectations. Visas most commonly is going to be a working visa, and this is something that we can assist you with in terms of letting you know what documentation you need, and your school that you are being hired by, they're also going to play a big role because they're basically sponsoring you. They're providing that proof that they are hiring you, they're bringing you over to teach. So that can be definitely a different process depending on where you're wanting to go, but know that we can help as well as your school. But yeah, so that's a bit about that for Asia.
I love that we put by Skype, as if Skype is like interchangeable with any sort of video conferencing platform that there is.
Yep.
I mean, how many schools are using Skype now versus Zoom or FaceTime? I don't know. They want to see your face on the screen and talk to you. That's about it. Again, you know, we're looking at a different part of the world. We're looking at different school years and therefore hiring seasons. When we say year-round, the markets are big enough that private schools, which are the majority of the positions, do actually hire year-round. In public schools, you may have definitive starts by the semesters, which can vary from East Asia to Southeast Asia. So you'll want to talk with your advisor specifically about the country that you're interested in if you're targeting Asia. The majority of the contracts are 12 months. Schools, especially in East Asia, are making very large investments to get you over there as a teacher. This is the expectation. So from my perspective, I think, my first 12 months went by really fast, and I was having a great time, and I wanted to stay again another year. And a lot of the people I worked with did just that. But I think at first it's a big psychological barrier, an entire year. You can always start a job, you can always leave. This is not signing a military contract. Take it incrementally if you're moving somewhere for a year. But the reality is, it's almost harder to leave the country and return to the United States than to go there, because you do settle and you make great friends. You're having a wonderful time, and you are actually on the adventure. Like, you are in it. You're not thinking about it in the future. You are in it. So 12 months is most typical, and trust me, it can fly. Salaries in this region are really great. They tend to pay foreign teachers, us being the foreign teachers, better than they pay local teachers. So they're really paying a premium to have somebody who can model the English language the way that we can, because that's what makes language practical. Active vocabulary versus passive, if you will. Check out the country comparison chart. Maybe if you have it handy, Ahmed, you could drop it in the chat right now. But this gives a this gives a really good estimate as to what you can save, because in this region you are saving. And how much it is really depends on how strong their currency is in exchange rate to the US dollar or Canadian dollar. But in all situations, you're living a lifestyle that's like a really well-experienced teacher. That's the way I'd put it. So definitely worth giving a look to Asia. It's a great place to start, and a fantastic region to travel around.
Of course. All right, so this is the last region we're going to take a look at, and then we'll chat a bit about teaching online, just so you can sort of gauge that industry as well. The Middle East is, an underrated region. There's a lot of opportunity. It's a fast and a growing area of the world. These are some of the top markets right here. So United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, Morocco, Qatar, Egypt, Oman, Morocco. These are going to be some of the best options in this area.
Yeah, before we dive into these markets and the requirements and all of that, love to hear, Ahmed, just a little bit of your take. You've spent a lot of time in the Middle East. You have roots there. Yep. Taught in the UAE. You visit your family in Jordan. Yep. What do you think the Middle East really offers that the average person isn't thinking about when they look at this region?
That's a great question. I think it offers a huge variety of different types of experiences, because the Middle East and North Africa stretch for a long stretch of the world. So you could be in Morocco, in North Africa, having a completely different experience than someone, say, in the Gulf, but equally fun, I think. And we have some alums who've gone to these places, and they've made some videos and written some articles that I think you should check out. But in general, just being open-minded to all the different parts of the world, be it Middle East or elsewhere, is usually a best practice, because you don't know until you start applying and interviewing and hearing stuff. But I think the Middle East is great. The Persian Gulf definitely allows you to save a good deal of money. So if that's something that you're interested in and you think you might qualify, since they tend to be a little bit more picky and discerning, if you will, they want to see some teaching experience or sometimes a background in ed. But hey, I didn't have any of that. I was fresh out of college, got TEFL certified, got a job in Dubai. So it is possible. Exceptions always exist. So if it is a place that you're interested in, but you're like, oh man, I'm not going to get those places, it's worth a shot. Definitely consider it. And of course, you have places in like the Levant, like Jordan, and which could be a very different experience, but also wonderful. I know we have a student who he has been in the Kurdistan region of Iraq for quite a while now. And previous to that, he was in Jordan, and previous to that, he was in Tunisia. And so he loves it, and he's been writing about it. He became a journalist. Definitely consider it and do some research on some places.
Yeah, I think you interviewed him, a year back or so, right?
I did.
Adam.
I can probably find that interview and pop it into the chat as well. I thought it was a pretty.
Yeah, I mean, he's got a really interesting take on it. But again, a place that people with experience, not only teaching, but traveling the world and being travel savvy, tend to really enjoy being in this part of the world. So he's got some great articles. So diving in, degree requirements, bachelor's degree, master's preferred. Okay, this is a little different. Well, ultimately, that's what they're going to ask for. The Persian Gulf, where they have really, really fantastic salaries in population, it's about the same as the population of Korea. You know, you're talking about what, 35 million people in Saudi Arabia, 11 million people in the Emirates. You know, it's not a hugely populated part of the world, but the benefits are great. And so you put those factors together, and they're going to ask that you have a master's degree, and they can, because the benefits are there, the positions are competitive in this part of the world. That said, they're going to, there we go again, Skype, Zoom. I like this, a little more updated. They're going to interview you in advance. They're going to talk to you. Although if you're going to maybe Egypt, Morocco, and some other places, it's possible to find work on the ground. You will find that contract lengths are a year, and in some cases, they even look for 2 years and might have better benefits in those situations. So a wonderful region to look at, consider, but ultimately a place that a lot of people end up after they've been teaching somewhere else and have built some experience. Outside of the Persian Gulf, in Persian Gulf, you know, Saudi, Kuwait, Bahrain, Oman, Emirates, Qatar, the really oil-rich countries. Outside of the Persian Gulf, you're going to find that things kind of function like in Latin America. Oh, you're here, you're ready to work, you've got a job. So it's possible to find face-to-face work. Of course, there's a lot of research and legwork that goes into making a move to any new city, but face-to-face to secure the job. The visas will change country by country. Contract lengths can be shorter. So here we're talking basically like Egypt, Morocco, maybe Jordan. And the salaries, you know, are going to be on two ends of the spectrum. You know, if you go work in Morocco, you can live at a very low amount of US dollars, and the pay kind of reflects that. So again, teaching English online and pulling some US dollars can really stretch what you can do and make your life easier. So it's a nice way to supplement. But then the great divide, if you're in the Persian Gulf, people do save $2,000 a month. I mean, experienced people can make $75,000 US tax-free with their housing paid for and 2 months of vacation. So it's you can see the benefits, and there's quite a gap between the Persian Gulf and other countries in the region. So that said, we are going to dive in a little bit to the remote world, which we've talked about a bit.
Of course, yeah. So teaching online, I know, I think it was me, I touched on this earlier. It's a growing market right now, and definitely in terms of international education and TEFL, one of the fastest, with this increase in interest for wanting to learn online. As a first-time online teacher, setting that expectation of $15 to $20 an hour is a good place to be setting your mindset in terms of finances. A big benefit of teaching online, especially right now, you can teach from the safety and comfort of your home. So this can give you a lot of flexibility if you're wanting to dive into TEFL, but not really sure when you want to head abroad. This can be a good way to gain that experience and do so from home. And you can put that experience on your resume. So make you that better candidate when you do start applying for positions more globally. Big benefit of teaching online is flexibility. So whether it be part-time, full-time, or just like a couple hours a week, you do have a lot of options in terms of the number of hours that you are teaching. And another thing with that flexibility, you can work from anywhere. The main thing is that you want to make sure you have reliable internet because you're bringing your classroom with you if you do move from place to place.
That's right. It's like a little science fair project setup. You got your little board behind it. It looks great on camera, but you could be sitting anywhere. So, should you get certified right now? Well, the short answer is like, of course, yes. Times may seem uncertain, and the news has been tough over the last year, but this is a field that is going to return. Artificial intelligence does not replace teachers or mentors at this point, and I don't think it will in our lives. And English is the second language of the world. There are more people out there learning it than there are people who speak it as their first language. So if you want to have your ducks in a row, getting certified now makes a whole lot of sense. When the gates open and the jobs are open, there'll be more positions open at one time than at any other time before, and probably again in the future. Are you going to be ready for that? If you are, you're going to have your pick of the litter. If not, hey, you can still get abroad. It's just going to take a little more work and time.
Of course, yeah. So I mean, right now we're mostly advising and recommending getting TEFL certified online. There's just a lot of unknown and unpredictable like factors that can go into in-person classes. So getting TEFL certified online so you can prepare yourself for when jobs do reopen up abroad, or maybe even teach online in the meantime. Similar to teaching English online, getting certified online, you can do that from your home. So within your home or your apartment, you'll be good to go. And utilizing the time right now to access our job search resources, network with our alumni that are currently abroad, get a feel for what their classroom is like, and setting your expectations before you go. If you do really, really prefer that in-person class, talk to your advisor. They're going to be the best at giving you realistic perspective on what that will look like and when for in-person training.
That's right. So with the economic outlook, why get certified right now? Well, the tuition cost is the same as stimulus checks, so there's one reason. But honestly, online education, the whole stigma with it in the past, like, that's over. That's certainly over to employers overseas, and people understand, like, yes, you can learn online. There are best practices to that, and we follow those best practices. In any of our online classes, you have a professor. They know your name. There's a small group of people in your class. You can see their activity. So this isn't a do-it-yourself, nobody knows who you are online class with International TEFL Academy. It's structured. You're doing real work. You're accountable for that. And so it's, it's going to be an equivalent piece of education that you can use anywhere around the world, just like an in-person class. So we've got some downtime still, it's a great time to improve your resume, get this sort of training. Our services in terms of job searching and networking is lifetime. We'll be ready to help you when you're ready to go. So again, if you're ahead of the curve here and you are certified, when things are open, those are going to be the people presented with the most opportunities.
Of course, and obviously, I mean, when you're looking at timelines for getting jobs, teaching online or teaching overseas, I mean, it's professionally irresponsible for us to speculate on how each individual country in the globe will continue to respond to the virus, especially when it comes to like teaching abroad and in person. But in this next slide, we're going to break down a realistic timeline to be considering as you plan. So Matt, do you want to take that away?
Yeah, I mean, 3 to 9 months is really what it takes to go anywhere. I mean, there's the certification process, but within the certification, which is 11 weeks here, you can start networking. You can start applying for jobs. You'll have access to those resources. So you can condense things into a shorter time window if you're doing it at the same time. If you do it step by step, I'm going to earn the certification, and then I'm going to start applying for jobs. Maybe it spans a little bit longer. But the bottom line is to apply for jobs, pick a place to go, do all the little things that you have to do. You know, put your stuff in storage, or, you know, pack your bags, throw yourself a goodbye party before you take off on this adventure. It's just going to take some time, and 6 to 9 months is pretty standard if you know that you want to do it and you're ready to hit the ground running.
Yeah, and I mean, looking at teaching online jobs, I mean, I know I've talked about it a few times already, but just important to be thinking of this as an option because it is really popular right now for our alumni. Interviewing and hiring processes really vary from school to school and can take a few weeks. So you'll want to work with our job search team to sort of set your expectations and plan for that. And for teaching online, most major schools and the more reputable, well-paid online schools are requiring a TEFL, especially right now as the market has become more competitive with more applicants. This TEFL certification, more than ever, is important for online teaching.
Absolutely. So we're going to go, you know, quickly over some of the certification options that we have for you, and primarily looking at some of the online options. So why don't you give us a quick breakdown of the 11-week class, Kari, which is the class that, you know, 80% of our students take in any given year, and this year even more.
Yes, yeah, this is by far the most popular option. I think mostly because it is designed for flexibility. So you can keep living your life, doing your day-to-day commitments while doing your training. And so you have that sort of flexibility that you can do a few things at once. So for this course, it's 150 hours of coursework, 20 hours of real practice teaching, of teaching English to non-native speakers. All of our courses are led by university level instructors, so you receive relevant and constructive feedback on your assignments. There's 20 students per class with that professor, so that way you can really get personalized feedback and improve your skill set as a teacher. When it comes to like resources and materials, there's a good variety in terms of chapter readings, videos, webinars, office hours, and during this pandemic, it's really the best option because you can take it from home. And the tuition, I forgot that, but Matt, you go.
There's the tuition right now. The tuition is $1,249, which is $200 off of the standard rate. It is possible that if you wanted to divvy this up into some smaller increments, you can do that. It's something that you should discuss directly with your advisor to get a tuition schedule together, but it's an option.
Yeah, a nice one too. Like lock in that discount and make payments as you're like heading into your course. So good options there. Online course, we talked a bit about the 11-week. The other option is our 4-week intensive course. So this is a full-time commitment. It's basically your full-time job for a month. So Monday through Friday, about 9:30 in the morning until about 5:30 in the evening Central Time, you'll be logged on. You'll have class, you'll have discussions, and it's a very interactive class. And some evenings you'll have practice teaching in the evening. So it is long days with this specific course option. Similar to our other course, led by university level instructors, as well as accredited by an internationally known authority, recognized worldwide. Smaller classes, mostly because it's just such a quick course and jam-packed, we need to make it more feasible for our professor. So 12 students in this class, and a great option if you are able to make that full-time commitment and you want to get your certification done in 4 weeks compared to 11 weeks. Tuition for this course is slightly higher than the 11-week course. Standard tuition is $1,999. And there is a $200 discount running through the end of the month, bringing that to $1,799.
Yeah, this class is actually our Chicago class schedule from when we were running the in-person class here in Chicago with the same professors and the whole same schedule and the same intensity. Sorry about some of the font issues. I'm using a little different browser than what this presentation was put in, but we also have these additional wonderful 2-week specialty courses. There's one about teaching English online where you make your demo tape for introducing yourself and get it up on YouTube. There's one about teaching business English where you do a needs analysis project and learn how to really tailor material for an individual. There's one about teaching English to young learners. You get a ton of extra materials that you can use with students. These are structured like the 11-week class in the sense that there's weekly deadlines, 20 students, 1 professional instructor, but it's only 2 weeks long. So great option to continue your education, whether you want to do that in 2 years from now or do it straight after going through a class with us. Those are going to be options for you.
All right, so as I mentioned way back at the beginning of this presentation, if you remember, we are full service when it comes to a TEFL school. So job search guidance comes directly from our student affairs team. So whether you are planning to teach abroad, teach online, maybe both, like getting certified is that first step, but this job search guidance will help you with finding work. So we do have full-time staff that are a part of that student affairs team. Similar to Matt, Ahmed, and myself, they are here to help you for one-on-one advising in your job search. So that way you can get resources for your goals as well as that expert advice. But Matt will chat a bit more about what they do for us.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, the student affairs team and these advisors, and by the way, these pictures are really advisors that work here, they maintain all of our resources. Everything that we've done helping students go around the world to all these 80 different countries over the last decade, we've documented. And so they maintain the resources, they maintain relationships with employers that we're associated with or that we have a good relationship with, and they help all of our students to be able to professionally present themselves to employers, whether that's preparation for interviews or just what your resume and cover letter should look like, right down to being offered a contract and having somebody verify, hey, this is a fair deal. So they're here to help you navigate the whole field with your options and ultimately can help you cast a wider net and have that confidence that you're doing things the right way and what's a fair offer, etc.
Of course, and our alumni community, in my opinion, this is one of the coolest things that we have as a TEFL school. All of us that work here, I mean, we have lived and traveled abroad extensively, so we know, like, you want that community. I mean, you want it when you're in your course, you want it after, and you want it indefinitely. 'Cause maybe you just want some recommendations on good places to eat when you do make that trip abroad. So these are some popular ways that our alumni will network right now. By far, our country-specific Facebook groups are really active and good ways to start chatting with alumni in your countries of interest. We also have our annual Teach Abroad Film Festival. Way back when, at the beginning of the presentation, I showed that picture of us. It was at this film festival in which we have alumni, opt to create a video about their experience and then like showcase that, but potentially win a prize. So that's great. We also have our annual World Alumni Day in which alumni gather together around the globe and celebrate being a teacher, living abroad, and just like seeing each other face to face, hopefully after COVID. But that is something that they usually do every year. We also have our alumni do day in the life videos, which you can find on our Instagram as well as on our blog on our website. And also in those blogs, you'll find alumni Q&As, which are great ways to see their experience as well.
Absolutely. So as you can read here, the bottom line is we're here to help. All right, so Kari, here we are, we're like 2 minutes over. What are the next steps that you think people should be taking right now? Where can they go from here? Take this information. How do you go from here?
Of course, yeah. What next? I mean, you guys just sat here for 60 minutes listening to me and Matt. So first of all, pat yourself on the back. You did it. Next thing, talk to your advisor. Tell them we're great, but also just talk to them about what you want to do, like what your goals are for your certification, your goals for teaching, so that way they can help you with making a more personalized plan and timeline. Second step, get certified. I think Matt and I have said this numerous times. Take advantage of this time right now that, I mean, we're all at home and we have the availability and the capacity to get this training done. And that third step, the ultimate goal, experience the world as a paid English teacher, whether that be abroad or online, and actually use your certification.
We're a little over. Let's take a question or two.
Let's do it. I've been getting a lot of really good questions and typing away. Let's see. So someone's asking, do we get an advisor after we register? I can quickly answer that. You have an advisor. So if you're in here, you've received the invite, you have an admissions advisor. It's probably the name that's been flooding your email, or maybe going to promotion, so check there, or spam. So that person is the person who can help you with figuring out all the steps of the process and those kinds of things. But a job search advisor from Student Affairs is something that happens after enrolling.
Sorry about the little screen mishap there.
Keeping us on our toes.
All right.
Making sure everyone's watching.
We got time for one more, I think.
One more. I have a good one that has come up from other people as well. So if one of you guys want to take a crack at it, how important is it to know the host language's country? I know I get asked this question all the time on the phone.
Well, your job is to be able to teach English 100% in immersion. That is the proven best method for being able to actually actively use a foreign language. And that's why they hire people like us. The local English teachers can translate all they want. Your job is to keep this in immersion. So when it comes to the classroom, you don't need it. You don't need it at all. Any knowledge that you have of the language of the country that you're in will enable you to anticipate some difficulties where languages don't overlap and anticipate those in your lesson plans, for example. Socially, different story, of course, it can vary from place to place, but you're probably going to be working with other English teachers and you'll have a social group so you can get by with just English in terms of that. You're gonna have a boss who understands that you're from a different country and they don't expect you to be fluent in their language, so they can help with logistics. And most of the people that you meet will have had more experience learning English that probably you've had with their language. So it's certainly not a requirement. It's a wonderful way to, spend a little bit of your time acquiring the language in the country that you're at, learn some numbers, learn some basic politenesses, but it's not a requirement for the job or to go live abroad and have a great time.
Great answer. Cool, I think that's it. I have a final one if anyone wants to take. I can quickly. I have someone who's saying, I'm 63 years old. Can I get TEFL certified and teach English abroad? Yes, you can. Easily. Others are doing it. Just reach out to your advisor and they can talk to you about good places that we recommend, different routes that you could take. We have, different people volunteering in certain places and teaching online. There are so many different ways you could do it, but definitely get in touch with your advisor, and yes.
All right. Well, we're about 10 minutes here. Would love to take your questions all night. Actually, for anybody who is my student and I'm assigned to work with you as an advisor, hop on over to the Zoom link I emailed you an hour ago, and I'll continue the discussion for another 15 or 20 minutes. For the rest of you guys, thank you for joining us tonight. I hope you got something out of this, some good information, and I hope you're excited about what this could look like for you, because I know for all of us, it had a huge impact on our lives, and we just made wonderful friendships and had wonderful experiences along the way. want nothing more than for you guys to have the same. Kari, Ahmed, good working with you guys. I look forward to seeing you in the office hopefully soon.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah, thank you all for joining us and sticking with us. We really appreciate it. I know that there's a lot you could be doing besides this, so thank you for your time, and reach out to your advisor. Get the ball rolling.